Welcome to Season 2 of Tig's Bits. On the show this week, Brandon Tritt and I are going to discuss the completion of his remarkable college football journey. If you listened to the last episode, you heard Brandon talk about his experiences at the Big House in Michigan, Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee, Happy Valley at Penn State, and of course, Death Valley at LSU. And when we last visited with him, we were basically at the halfway point of the journey. He still had visits to the University of Texas, the University of Oregon, and the Ohio State left in the journey. And from what I've heard, he actually even ended up at the SEC championship with Georgia and LSU. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, Mr. Brandon Tritt. Brandon, thanks so much for coming back on to Tig's Bits. How have you been since we last spoke?
You know, it's been a wild journey these last few months. I've been going nonstop. After the football games, I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I'm still traveling right now. So
I know when we last talked, we kind of wrapped it up. I think that very next week you were heading to the Texas TCU game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. I went to Austin that weekend. I think I decided to go to that game about 3 to 4 weeks prior. You know, I was looking at the lineup for games that week, and I saw that one. I'm like, you know what? I think that's going to be a big one.
Dude, how was that game? I mean, I know the final score, it was 17-10. But TCU was up like what 17-3 for most of the game, if I remember right.
Honestly, man, it was hard to watch because I was pulling for Texas, and there was a lot of people around me that weren't very happy.
Oh, I can only imagine because it looked pretty bleak the whole game. Of course, Texas made a little comeback with 4 or 5 minutes left in the game to make it interesting. But I agree, the score really didn't indicate how poorly they played throughout the game, and it was ugly. Their defense played well. Yeah, I mean, you got to give them that. They holding TCU to 17 points was pretty tough to do this season until they met Georgia.
But yeah, it was a cold weekend in Austin. When I got there on Friday, it was raining and it was around 40 degrees. And when I got to my apartment, the place I was staying in was like probably a half a mile to a mile north of the stadium. And I really wanted to get a video of my drone flying over the stadium. But I was looking at the weather conditions. I'm like, man, this might not be a great idea because it was windy. But I threw it up there anyway, and I got a decent video.
You can see all of those pictures and things on tigsbits.com. You can check it out, tigsbits.com, brand new website for season 2.
But, you know, it's just for fun for me. I'm not trying to monetize any of that. I'm just having a good time.
That's an understatement, man. No doubt. I'm having a good time just watching you and imagining being a 30-year-old Tigs once again, because I know where I was at. And I don't think the world could have handled me traveling and going on a college football tour. Things would have ended much differently than it is with me talking to you, man.
So all these videos that I take at, football games, Instagram has this thing called story highlights. And I created like a college football story highlight. And I find myself going through those and watching them pretty often. It's just, I really like, reliving that stuff and, seeing those atmospheres and the bands. It's just why I love college football,
Absolutely. All of the pageantry, the pomp, the circumstance, all of that stuff that's what makes college football what it is and what makes it so fun. What would you say are some unique things that you found at Texas? Something that's a little bit unusual that if you remember, we've gone to Knoxville, we've gone to Michigan, we've gone to Penn State, we've gone to LSU. Now we are in Austin. What's something that's different that you run into there that you hadn't seen yet at any of the other places?
There's a few things. For one, Texas has like a carnival set up outside their stadium. They have like a Ferris wheel, slides. I've never seen anything like it. It's right outside the stadium. And then they also had a concert right before the game outside the stadium. It was a Third Eye Blind concert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had
That's
never seen that
awesome.
before. It was honestly, the concert started like 2 hours before the game, and it was right outside the stadium.
Cool.
The tailgating is very different there. I got so as I was walking, to game day in the mornings, I was walking through campus and they had all these tents set up and they had names by each tent and they were all like tailgates that were run by businesses. So it had a very corporate feel, and
Right.
they don't get started very early for tailgating.
It's not like at LSU. Huh? The sun's up. There's people at LSU. They're out there. They're out there. They're already out there right now.
I think I sent you this picture, but one of the tents that I passed, the name of the tailgate was Future SEC Champions.
That's good for now.
It's like, when was the last time you guys won the Big 12? I think it's been a while.
Yeah. Good luck coming into the SEC and all of a sudden winning that one.
I did get invited to a tailgate, and I showed up there around 1 o'clock, and they were just setting up, so I got there a little early. I figured 1 o'clock was a good time, but
You would think. What? I mean, I'm absolutely. I get blasted if I am not at the tailgate. If I'm there at 10, I'm already way, way, way too late. I mean, they get on the microphone to let everybody know that Tiggs just showed up. And then if it's at 1 o'clock, I think I would be kicked out of the Cajun Tiger tailgate party. They would not allow me back. You can't show up. I have to pre-qualify the week before the time that I'm going to be there. I have to tell them, look, I got a soccer game next Saturday. I'm not going to be there till about 11 o'clock. You better be here at 11. You better be here at 11 because they're out there at freaking 3:30 or 4 in the morning. So yeah, 1 o'clock. I can't. I don't compute that. That doesn't make sense. 1 o'clock. You're 5.5 hours before kickoff, man. What are they doing?
eventually the tailgate got going around 3 or so, and it ended up being a good time. They had some really good food there. Honestly, I had some of the best chicken wings I've ever had in my life there.
I'm a chicken wing nut, dude. Like, I'm probably going to do a whole podcast on chicken wings at some point in time. Honestly, I mean, I really am a chicken wing nut. So what? We got to stop for a second. I got to know what what made those chicken wings so good. What was up with them?
Well, so they were just very juicy. Didn't need any sauce whatsoever. It kind of tasted like they were brined, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I guarantee
And
you they were.
they had lemon pepper seasoning on them.
I love lemon pepper, man.
They were really good, man. Like, the next time you guys play there, I can send you to that tailgate. Yeah, one of the guys that runs it, he does a lot of the cooking. His name's Ivan. He's a great guy. Yeah, he took me over to his friends. He had like a huge food truck that is used in barbecue competitions. It was like right across the lot.
Oh.
He took me in there and he gave me a little tour of that. That was really cool.
Just a bummer of a game for UT, which, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Brandon, doesn't hurt my feelings one bit at all. But I know it has to be a lot more fun on this journey. I think it would be safe to say it's more fun to see the home team
Yeah,
win.
definitely.
It's, the fans are more fun to be around.
I think that was my first time ever going to game day. Because when I was in college at FSU, we had game day there several times, but I was always out partying the Friday night before.
Right.
I never cared to get
Yeah.
up early enough to go, but game day was a lot of fun. They had the Texas band there, and I'll say I think of all the places I've been, I think Texas band is my favorite band.
They're a good band.
I like their fight song a lot as well.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I mean, I'm going to hate on Texas because we've got a little bit of we have a natural rivalry to begin with, and it's going to get real
Yeah.
quick. And we already have had some battles over the years, but no, they're Texas, man. I respect them, and I've never been to a game in Austin. Of course, I've seen the stadium. I think I said that on our last show. What'd you think about the stadium? I know they've done a lot of renovations to it.
So the stadium was very nice. It definitely had the nicest big screen that I've seen. It was just huge. Another thing that I noticed was the speaker system was by far the loudest I'd seen anywhere. Like, it was almost at a point where it hurts your ears. They turned that sucker up all the way.
Because they don't have crowd noise. Sorry, but it's true. They really don't. It's not. I mean, it's not as loud from what I've heard, it's not as loud as other stadiums.
Yeah, well, one thing that was a little disappointing was the end zone that has the longhorn. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, with the
Yeah,
tunnel.
yeah. Well, it's the end zone where they have the big screen. But anyway, they sell like a lot of suites inside up there. So I guess people have the option to, hang out in the club or they can go to their seat. So there ends up being a lot of empty seats during the game. The people are inside and, drinking or whatever.
Makes it not look full.
That's disappointing, for a big time game to see. Another thing that's unique about Texas, they sell liquor inside the stadium.
Yeah, LSU doesn't sell liquor. You have to go in the suites. They sell liquor in the suites and in the clubs, but they don't. At the vendors just sell beer and
you
wine,
can get anything you want at Texas. Regular admission. Another thing that was unique was in the concourses they have like DJs that play music. So it's like little party out there.
That's interesting. That's different. I could see that being kind of cool. I mean, I'd like LSU to do that. Honestly, it'd be kind of fun to just keep the crowd hyped like they needed more. But
By the way, have you ever seen the movie My All American?
I have. Oh yeah.
So I watched that movie a few years ago and I liked it a lot. And at the tailgate, I met this older man that graduated from Texas in either the late 60s or the early 70s. And he actually went to school with Freddie Steinmart. And it was really cool meeting a guy like that because he's traveled all over to go to Texas games. He was telling me about, Texas versus Arkansas game of the century. It was just really cool, hearing stories from a guy like that who's been to so many games over the years.
What blows my mind is who you run into at college football games.
One of the guys that I met at the tailgate, he took me into the alumni center before we went to the concert. And when I was in there, this guy saw my FSU hat. He came up to me. He showed me a picture of him playing golf with Norvell. Yes,
Wow.
I think this guy was a big Texas booster, but he told me that his best friend is a big FSU booster, and they play golf with Norvell. So that was pretty cool seeing that. I was standing on this bridge, and Sark walked right past me. By the way, did you see that video of him going off on that guy that put his hand on him?
Oh, I did see that. Yes, I did.
That was crazy, man.
I did.
The guy was just doing his job, just trying to, hold him back.
Right. Well, I mean, hey, I guess at least he's not drinking again. But anyhow, that's a whole nother. I don't want to get into that. I'll mess with Texas for eternity, and it looks like I'm going to get to. So I'm pumped about it. All right, so we leave Texas. Texas was fun. Where do we go?
Okay,
next?
so the next stop is Eugene for Oregon versus Utah. That was the toughest place for me to get to. From South Florida, I had to fly to LA, and then from there I flew to Portland, and then from Portland I got on the Amtrak and headed down south to Eugene. So that was like an all-day travel event.
Well, you said in the last podcast that you were going to have to catch 2 flights or 2 trains, or and it was his plane, trains, and automobiles basically to get to Eugene.
So the flight to LA, then the flight to Portland, then the Amtrak to Eugene. But it was fun, man. I enjoyed it. I think that was my first time on an Amtrak train, and it was pretty nice. I definitely do it again.
That would be a pretty neat experience. So how long was your train ride?
I think it took about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
That's not bad.
Did I send you a picture of the place that I was staying at in Eugene?
I know you sent me a picture of your drone shot, which is, wow, absolutely.
That's one of my favorites. Got up for the sunrise and, just the natural beauty behind the stadium.
Man, it is so beautiful. It's so green. It's just so many beautiful green. I guess they're evergreen trees. It's just it's so beautiful. It really, really is. And to see, I think it's just a brilliant idea to get that drone shot, and it's even more remarkable that you're up that early because that's it. There's a lot of fun, festivities, travel, lag. There's a lot of stuff that it would make it easy to skip getting up at 6 a.m. just to get that shot. But dude, it's worth it.
I've never regretted getting up early, whether it's for, flying my drone or just going on a different adventure. I've never regretted it, man. It's always been worth it. The place I was staying at in Eugene is pretty funny because it was like a little apartment right on top of a convenience store. like mini mart type place. So, I didn't have to go very far for beer, which was nice.
That's good. That's right. Or something to eat, probably either. It's a one-stop shop, baby.
But yeah, it was right on campus too, which is cool. And the campus, from what I saw, was really pretty.
Is the stadium? Is their stadium right on the heart of campus, like LSU's is? I know that Texas is. Is their stadium right in the middle of
Their
their
setup
campus?
is a bit unique. So they have the Willamette River that runs through Eugene, and south of the river, that's where the campus is. And then just north of the river, they have all their athletic facilities. And they have this pedestrian bridge that you walk across over the river, and it's really
Okay.
pretty. So everybody just walks from campus over the bridge to the stadium.
That's so neat. I love that's one of the fun things about doing this is seeing, I would think, would be seeing all of the unique ways that fans get to the stadium, that students get to the campus, and just because every place is different and every place is unique. I know there are a lot of similarities, I'm sure, that you have seen throughout all of these, but I'm sure there's a lot of big differences too, little things that differentiate other schools from other places. And then the game, Oregon and Utah. I mean, of course, Oregon had was it Oregon that had lost?
Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon had lost the week prior to you going because they were in the top five, weren't they? Before they
I think
lost.
they may have been like between 5 and 10 or something, but yeah, they lost to Washington in what looked like an instant classic.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a crazy
I was
game.
checking that score pretty often when I was at Texas, and I was disappointed when they lost, but it was still, big time game in Eugene.
It was a big time game. I watched it. Heck of
Oh
a
yeah,
ball game. It was a lot lower scoring than I thought
yeah,
it was going to be. I thought that game was going to turn. I thought it was going to be a shootout, and it was fairly low scoring ball game. What was it? 20
yeah,
twenty
yeah.
seventeen,
I think
something
so.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That was the coldest game I've been to. That was cold.
I was going to ask how was the
I think
weather
it was
there?
probably in the high 20s during the game, but
Whew.
it,
No
yeah,
thanks.
that was really cold, man. Like I could have used another layer for sure.
Yeah, man. I think the coldest game I ever went to was at Notre Dame. LSU played
Oh yeah.
Notre Dame back in the late 90s, and it was 32, 33 degrees that day for the high, which is, not that's nothing for those folks, but I was cold. I wore a full-on jumpsuit, thermal underwear, and that stuff, and they made fun of all the LSU people up there. I'll never forget that. So I'm glad we stole their coach.
Yeah, I want to get up to Notre Dame the next time the Knowles play up there, because that's obviously like got to be near the top of every college football bucket list.
I mean, it is for sure. I'm glad that I went. Very fortunate. LSU lost that day in a close game they should have won. Honestly, but it was really cool. Notre Dame had a beautiful campus to see touchdown Jesus and all that. To get to go into that stadium in South Bend was cool, but I'll never go back. Once was enough. Once was enough. It was, I liken it to the equivalent of like going to, if you're not, and I'm a Cubs fan, but if you're not a Cubs fan and you're not a Red Sox fan, it's the equivalent of going to
Yeah,
Wrigley Field or going to Fenway. You got to go. You got to go see it, but
I went to both of those this past summer, and they were definitely worth it.
yeah, well, I agree 100%. I've never been to Fenway, but I've been to Wrigley, and I'm being a Cubs fan, of course. Fenway is on my bucket list. I have to go to Fenway.
I'm
But
I'm a Rays fan, and I saw them play the Red Sox at Fenway on July 4th this past year.
oh man, what? You were at that game when they all wore the
Oh
American
yeah,
flag?
I actually have a Rays American flag hat, and I wore that. I was just thinking, what's more American than being in Fenway Park on July 4th?
I can't think of it. I can't think of many things, man. That is pretty much the most American thing I could think that you could do, honestly.
Let me tell you about the Oregon tailgating experience. So yeah, it's a bit similar to Texas, and they don't get started until later. And I didn't get invited to any tailgates for this one, so I kind of had to improvise a little bit. So I was watching these Oregon tailgating videos on YouTube, and I saw this bus that looked really cool. I think I sent you a picture, video. It's a school bus that was, painted and turned into an Oregon Ducks bus. So I was thinking to myself, all right, I gotta find this bus. And when I got to the parking lot where everyone tailgates, there was like nobody there, but I saw the bus way in the back. So I'm like, all right. I just walked over there. I, introduced myself, and these guys were super friendly. They took me right in, made me drinks. The bus was just decked out, man. It was a sight to see. For each game, they have like a stuffed mascot animal, and they hang it on a rope inside the bus.
Hang it in effigy. That's always fun to do. I love doing that. I love it I love it whenever I see that. Guilty, guilty. I've hung a few mascots with ropes. Sorry, I have.
Their drink special of the day was Utah uterus.
What is in a Utah uterus?
It was pink, and that's all I remember. But I may have had a few of those.
That's okay. That's okay. It enhances the experience.
Yeah, so I was there pretty early, so I hung out with these guys for a couple hours, and then once things started to crank up a little bit, I went to this other tailgate, and the folks are really friendly. That's where I found the Oregon Duck, the mascot head. That was one of my favorite pictures that I got during this whole 8 weeks. Just putting on the Oregon Duck head and having my FSU hat.
I mean, how can it not be? It's so freaking fun, man.
The Duck mascot actually they have him ride around all the tailgate lots before the game. So he's like in the back of this truck, and he's just standing up, waving to everybody, and it's pretty cool. Sometimes he stops and tailgates a little bit. I've never seen anything like that. That was cool.
I would say that the Oregon Duck mascot is probably I think I would say that it's the most universally known, coolest looking. It's on the most commercials. Mascot that there is. I love that mascot. I absolutely do. I'd love to meet that mascot.
Yeah, you know how he rides in on the motorcycle. He leads the team out.
Right. Yes.
So
yes.
as
yes.
I was walking into the stadium, I saw the motorcycle driving around, and there was people getting on the back taking pics with the guy.
Of course they were. I've seen the Duck. LSU played Oregon. What is that? 2011. They played it, and LSU won. That was a thriller of a game. That was when they had Marcus Mariota and all. That was a good one. But yeah, man, Eugene sounds like fun.
The atmosphere, how Oregon's always listed on one of the loudest stadiums.
We talked about that. You were interested to see how loud is this place going to be if it lives up to the hype.
It was definitely loud, but I don't think it's in the same tier as like a Penn State, LSU, Tennessee. I think it's a notch or two below that.
I would think it would be. I mean, I know that it holds a lot of people in that stadium. I guess it's is it built in a valley in a sense, or is it kind of on the flat and there's mountains? Is it
it is pretty flat. The mountains that you see are kind of off in the distance. So I think, yeah, it's pretty flat. But the way the stadium is designed, it apparently helps hold sound in. But it's a cool stadium, man. Very modern. Haven't seen anything like it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way whatsoever, but it looks like a cute little stadium, and I don't mean that. I mean, it does. It's in a perfect little place in a nice little valley, and it has the mountains around it. There's the river not far from it, and I mean, it's just. It looks like a nice place, but the crowd that I always see, that's why I've never really understood why it gets that kind of attention for being loud, because the crowd always looks so laid back. And from what I understand, and I've been to the Pacific Northwest, they are a lot more laid back up there. They're chill. So I've never really understood that. I believe it, but I haven't seen it or witnessed it myself. And you can't really 100% compare it when the week before they kind of had, they had a little bit of that momentum knocked out of them for sure. So I'm sure that didn't help everything, but it's still a big game.
They were still playing for, a Pac-12 championship berth. But another thing I want to mention is that the tickets to this game were by far the cheapest of any game that I went to. Yeah, I was surprised by that because the stadium holds $40K less than any of the other stadiums I went to.
Smallest stadium, cheapest ticket. That doesn't add up.
Yeah, when I saw some of the ticket prices, I was wondering if it would be a sellout or not.
Your ticket price to get to Eugene, Oregon, I guarantee you was
Yeah,
not
that's yeah,
cheap.
that's true. So yeah, no, the stadium was pretty full, but that's just an interesting observation I noticed. Maybe there's not as much demand to go to an Oregon football game as Well, it's not surprising because in the South and Big Ten country.
It's the deal. I mean, it's just the deal. So you finish in Eugene. Do you travel straight to your next destination? Do you go home? What do you do next?
I went home. So the only time I didn't go home during this trip was when I went up to Michigan. After the Michigan game, I spent a few nights in Detroit and then spent a few nights in Pittsburgh and then went to Penn State. Yeah, so I had a direct flight from Fort Lauderdale to Columbus, Ohio. I was there for probably what was the biggest game of the year, number 2 versus number 3. So you know how I make these posts in Facebook fan groups before the games.
Right, right.
So my Ohio State one was it didn't turn out too well. I mean, I made the same post that I post everywhere else. I had like this one guy, he was like, "Go back to Florida." 2 other people comment on it, just like nobody engaged in it. So they weren't the most hospitable for sure.
I've partied, hung out, and been around the Ohio State fans more than once. I didn't want to jade you. I knew this. I knew this. They're assholes. Period.
I did meet an older couple. And I actually walked inside the stadium with them, and they felt like my grandparents, but they were really nice. They were trying to show me around and made sure I got in okay. So that was a good interaction. But yeah, before that, I went to the area where College Game Day was, and I just hung out there. And I was staying right near campus, so I was able to walk everywhere. And as I was walking to game day, I saw a lot of the rivalry stuff. Like we walked past this bar, it must have been like 8 or 9 a.m. and the place was going crazy. Like all these college kids were outside, music was blasting. Like I was walking right behind a group of Michigan fans. And as we walked by the bar, all these Ohio State kids were like throwing up the birds, shouting F-bombs.
So that was a question. There's no love lost between those two programs, as we've all heard, but you can verify this. They don't like each other.
And I actually saw the Michigan buses come in, and they were in very generic buses too. They were in these like plain white buses because I guess it'd be kind of dumb to roll in with a maize and blue bus. Anyway, these Ohio State fans all knew it was Michigan, so they all like came to the road and they were all just throwing up birds at the buses.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You can look back and search LSU and Google and the buses that come into LSU. There's been a couple of instances of things that maybe we aren't the proudest of, but yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that you didn't get the most hospitable crowd. The times I've seen them in New Orleans, I've just not been that impressed. Here's the deal, Ohio State. You're one of the biggest programs in the country. Act like it. Invite people in. Act like one of us. You want to be us? Come try. Act nice to people. See how it goes. You go to anywhere in the SEC, you are treated like royalty. Am I wrong?
No, you're right, man. Tennessee and LSU were awesome experiences for me. I got treated very well.
Exactly. We don't count Florida, but I mean, that we will never approve of them. And I've had a blast at every single school that I've been to. I even had fun at Florida the one time I've been. I say and claim that I'll never go again. I probably will not, but I had a good time up until the game. Tebow's senior year just beat us, so whatever. I can get past that, but I've had fun everywhere I have gone in the SEC, and I think that most people have.
Yeah.
And most people that I've talked to that have come from other places, come from other schools, just want to come see a big SEC game. They don't care who wins, kind of like you. They have the time of their life because everybody rolls out the red carpet, and I know that other SEC schools also do that. It just surprises me there isn't somebody in one of those fan groups that would be like, oh, we got to show this guy what we're all about. Because that's what you got here. That's what you got in Tennessee. That's what, if you go next year to any other SEC schools, I promise you, that's what you're going to get there. People want you to come. They want you to come. They want you to experience. It is an experience. It's a fun experience. What you've just told me makes me have no desire to go see Ohio State and Michigan. And I actually had it on the bucket list, but you've just confirmed what I thought was the case. You know, y'all have it. You can have it. We'll just win our national championships and keep beating y'all's ass.
Well, I still had a good time there. I mean, I actually, after the game, I found some friendly Michigan fans and I celebrated with them.
I bet you found plenty of friendly Michigan fans after
so
that
it's
one.
funny. I went to the same bar that we passed in the morning, and there weren't many Ohio State fans there, but I was wearing Ohio State gear, and I came up to these Michigan guys. I'm like, hey, congrats. I'm not a Ohio State fan. Just pointed to my hat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not with them. I'm not with them. Well, that's good. Did Michigan travel well? Did they have a ton of folks there?
They had some folks, but an interesting thing I noticed was that a lot of Michigan fans are kind of scared to go to Ohio State, because I'm in all these Facebook groups, and I saw multiple people talk about it in the Michigan group, and they were like, no, we would never go to Ohio State. It's not safe there.
I have friends of mine that are outside of the SEC that say the same thing about LSU, and I'm like, they're actually a couple of friends of mine that are Texas A&M fans, and they've never been to Baton Rouge, and they say the same thing. Oh, I'm scared to come to Baton Rouge. It's like, come on, that's really not the case. Florida fans aren't, Alabama fans aren't scared to come here. There's no reason to be scared.
Yeah, no, there's no reason to be scared. And I say the same thing about Ohio State. I don't think it's unsafe to go there as a Michigan fan. I think these guys have probably heard some bad stories here and there, but that happens at a lot of big rivalry games. But yeah, the atmosphere was electric. Obviously, I sent you that video before kickoff where everybody was throwing up their shoes. I saw one guy that had a leg brace, and he was throwing that up in there.
Yeah, he was. You just do it all. You got to get in. The game was great, and then it just got crazy in the fourth quarter. Crazy for Michigan, not for Ohio State.
It was a very cool experience because that was Michigan's first time winning there in 22, 23 years. So just to see that was really cool. I have this video right after they scored a touchdown. I think it was the fourth quarter, and it was in the end zone that I was in. And I had this video of the band playing "Hail to the Victors," and the stadium's just really quiet.
Of course it was.
I did like Ohio State's band too. That song that they play, we don't give a damn about Michigan. That was pretty cool to see.
Now they tailgate earlier. They say, now of course it's Michigan, so I would expect that's their biggest game. I would think that they would be out there.
These guys they play more noon games than anybody else in the country probably.
All right, loudest crowd. We've just broken down seven games that you've been to, all different college campuses. What's the loudest stadium that you went to on that tour?
So, yeah, I know you want me to say LSU, but...
no, I want you to tell me what you think.
I'm being honest here. Once you get to a certain level, I think it's really hard to tell. There's a few that are in the same tier, and I would say Penn State, LSU, and Tennessee are all in the same tier. And I went to those games 3 weeks in a row. They were all night primetime games, and they were all really loud. And honestly, I can't tell you which one was louder, but I will say I had the most fun at the LSU game.
Then we'll accept that. Yeah, and I think that's a fair assessment.
So as far as sustained loudness, I would say LSU, just because of the game. It was back and forth the whole time. Whereas the other two games, Tennessee and Penn State, those are blowouts.
Tough comparison, but as we know, LSU's lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
So, I was not concerned about that. But that's good. So we would say LSU, Penn State, Tennessee, and then what would you say that the quietest of your tour would be?
Well, I wouldn't say any of them are quiet. I think probably Oregon, because Texas got loud too, and those speakers that I was telling you about, they're just so loud.
It's like an NFL game. Back in the day, they used to pump in.
They do a good job at trying to get the crowd into it. They play this animation on the scoreboard of Bevo, like every third down or something, and it just says "Get loud."
Right, I've seen that on TV. Yeah. It's fun though, man. I mean, just think about that. Just sit back, and I know that you have, but just think about what you just did in a year. Just there, and we're not done. We're not done, but just where you did those college campuses, what an amazing tour. You'll remember that for the rest of your life, and this will live forever to document it.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. It was an amazing journey, and I'm fortunate to be able to do all of that. And I have some games next year that I want to get to too. So I'm not done.
So we've gone to all of these places, but then you get a couple of little surprise nuggets here at the end and add on a couple of trips to completely end the college football tour. Where'd you go?
So I went to Atlanta for the SEC championship, and some of the guys that I met at Cajun Tiger invited me to the game. So I was like, all right, why not? I might as well go. It's the SEC championship.
Right. Why not? Why not? I'm proud of LSU and the way that they fought. They never quit, and they, not the best thing, but hey, if you get beat to the team that wins the national championship and went undefeated, then you can't really hang your head too much. And LSU wasn't supposed to be in the SEC championship in year one of Brian Kelly to begin with, yet here we are, another 10-win season at LSU. So we'll take it. And I wish the Tigers would have had a little better showing for you. And it looked like Georgia pretty much had 90%
Yeah.
of the stadium too. But that's okay. I'm sure the 10% of the LSU fans that showed up and my group, the Cajun Tiger tailgate crew, they brought it.
No doubt. They always bring it. That's the great thing about LSU fans, they're always going to bring it. We did get pretty excited whenever Nuss came in and he just started airing it out, man. That guy's got an arm.
He does, man. That's the thing. He absolutely has a cannon. And I like Jaden Daniels with his feet. And I don't know what happens in Baton Rouge next year. Do they both stay and compete for the job? I mean, do we have a two quarterback system? Dare I say? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of talk in the offseason of Baton Rouge, but it's a good problem. I think it's a good problem to have. But man, he had a hell of a second half. I mean, just
Yeah, that was we got really excited there for a few minutes.
yeah, I know. Me too. I did too. I did. And that's a game that sometimes the national championship game, for instance, second quarter, I shut it off and went on. I didn't keep watching it. I went on and did other stuff. Watched something on Netflix. Not interested.
Yeah,
But
I did the
like,
same thing.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people did. But the SEC championship, yeah, granted it's my team playing in it, but I didn't quit on them and I kept watching it. And then the second half, I was glued to the TV watching it. And, I mean, they're so far behind, they have no chance of winning. But it's like, but what if they could get a stop or a turnover, they could get back in the game, and they started working their way back there. But I'm proud of them. Proud of them for the way that they competed and played. But they got beat by the best team in the country. There's no doubt about that. So man, think about this for a second, Brandon. You saw Michigan play. You saw LSU and Alabama play. You saw Georgia play. You saw TCU play. You saw Texas. You saw Oregon. You saw Utah. You saw everybody just about that's in the top 10 or was in the top 10, fell out, came back at whatever. You saw the entire college football national picture throughout this journey. I think that's what's more amazing than anything, is that it's not just going to these cool places and having bucket list things go down. You actually followed the ebb and flows of the college football season. You didn't mean to do that. There's nobody that could have planned it out that way. But man, you were at some crucial games at some crucial times.
I was thinking about that. During bowl season, I was like, you know what? I saw all four playoff teams play, and I saw the Orange Bowl champ, I saw the Rose Bowl champ, I saw the Sugar Bowl champ, saw the Pac-12 champ. So yeah, looking back, it's pretty cool that I got to, because I think that this was a really fun college football season. Just in general, I think there's a lot of cool storylines. For example, like Tennessee coming back to being relevant in the national picture.
Right.
A team like TCU making it to the national championship, that's probably the most unlikely team that's made it there in my lifetime that I can think of.
Oh, for sure, for sure. No doubt, no doubt at all. Do you think the playoff committee got it right? And that's the four teams that it should have been.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people, they like to look back and based on the results, so like, oh, Alabama should have been there, he should have been there. But I think they got it right based off, the resumes going in prior to the playoff. Because it's really not fair to, watch Georgia blast TCU and be like, oh, TCU didn't deserve to be in. Because
Right.
Alabama, they barely beat Texas, and TCU beat them pretty handily. I mean, and I don't know, man. Those two games that Alabama played that they lost, those were tough losses, but
You can't lose. I mean, that's the bottom line.
they were on the set College Game Day for the national championship, and David Pollock and Nick Saban were sitting next to each other, and David Pollock started saying like Georgia's like the clear top dog in college football now, and then they showed Saban, and Saban had this look on his face.
Yeah, I saw that. And I don't know if I'm scared or if it's just going to be, because I think Georgia is, I mean, they are currently the standard in college football. I mean, they won back-to-back championships. They've lost what? One game in over 2 years. I mean, it's like they just, yeah, they're the standard. They have number one recruiting classes. They get stronger. They lost 15 or 16 kids last year. They still went undefeated. Yeah, they're the standard. But I did see that, and I can't stand David Pollock, man. His motor never stops running. That's what they used to would say on ESPN all the time back when he was playing. But I've just never really been a fan of his. But to see him ask that to Saban, and Saban's look was like, boy, do you know who you're talking to? I mean, do not give Nick Saban motivation. He does not need it. Do not give Alabama rat poison. They do not need it. Do not declare Alabama dead. They are not dead. Period. If y'all think that, you're crazy.
Yeah,
You're crazy. Until Nick Saban leaves Alabama, they got a shot in any game that they play. They got a shot to win the conference, and I am not convinced that Alabama is done. Not by a long shot. I wish they were, but they're not.
Before I forget, I want to mention. So I was passing through San Antonio. I spent a couple nights there. I found out that they were having the Alamo Bowl pep rally one of the nights I was there. Man, I'll say that was by far the best pep rally I've ever seen. And the bands on the boats and just all the people there. And I overheard this older Washington fan say, "Forget the Rose Bowl. I want to come here again."
Was that the first time you've been to San Antonio?
Yeah, that was my first time there.
Okay. Isn't the Riverwalk cool?
Oh, yeah.
It's so neat, man. It's so pretty. Well, Brandon, man, thank you so much for coming on the show twice now to tell your incredible story, man, of going to all of these just historical venues in college football, getting to go all around the country. Can't wait to have you back on to talk about some of these trips that you've gone on outside of this college football tour, some of these places that you've been. They're just fantastic. Brandon, what is your Instagram handle so folks can go see that themselves? Of course, go to tigsbits.com. I will have some of this stuff uploaded on there as well and watch the videos and TikToks. But where can they find you, Brandon?
My Instagram handle is Trittman92, Tritt man92. And yeah, I post just travel stuff on there. All my college football stuff is on there. It's just, my interests, everything that I'm interested in. I'm currently going to a bunch of national parks, so that's my focus.
And I've been seeing some of that. What is your rig that you use, your drone, and what camera do you use to take these pictures? Because they're fantastic.
Honestly, I use an iPhone 13 camera, and the phone cameras are really pretty awesome, man. Like, you can take pictures of stars with the night mode. It's unbelievable. And as I'm traveling, I meet a lot of people to do these outdoor things with, and I ask them to get a picture of me here and there, and some of them turn out really good. So
they do. You have really neat pictures, good pictures of you, really cool pictures of just scenery of places that you've been. So I can't wait to have you back on just so we can talk about some of these places that you've traveled. I've got a lot of questions, like I said earlier, but well, Brandon, I think that's a wrap.
Thanks for having me on again. I had a great time. Look forward to catching up with you again.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait. Lots more coming, folks. Lots more coming from Mr. Brandon Tritt. He's a fun dude to interview, and he has some good stuff to share, man. I can't wait till we do it again.